Hey guys, we're going to do a quick video here. This is going to be the installation of a wireless CarPlay module on my 2019 F150. Now my truck's already got the wired CarPlay, which I use pretty frequently. I'm just not a fan of always having the USB cable kind of dangling across my center console. So I wanted to have a wireless CarPlay solution, and I think I found a pretty nice device to use. The other part of that though is that I don't want it to always be diminishing my battery. It's going to automatically connect as I turn on the truck, and I don't want it just to be draining the battery constantly on my phone. So I do want to have somewhere where I can put the phone and it's going to be charging. I have a wireless Magsafe charger picked out that I think you guys are going to really like. And I picked this one specifically because it hard mounts to one of the dash locations right around one of your air vents, as opposed to some of the air vent style that clip on and are a little bit, a little janky. This one should be a pretty rigid fit. It's made out of milled aluminum, so I like that. And like I said, it's a hard mounted feature. I'm not also a fan of the style where you're using some self-adhesive pad that, gets hot in the sun and gets gooey and everything. So I think you guys will like this. I have a wireless CarPlay module picked out that got very good reviews. All these items I found on Amazon, like we do, you're trying to find the best bang for the buck. So I put those in the description down below. You guys are free to check them out if you're interested. Do your own review, see if they'll work on your vehicle. But like I said, I think they're probably a pretty good hit. The other part of this though is that wireless Magsafe charger, it's a 15 watt capable charger. It's a USB-C. However, this truck's only got USB-A in it, which is only a 10 watt capable output. I wanted to increase the output to make sure that I was getting the full charging capability out of the Magsafe charger. So the other item that I have to install today, it's a 12 volt to 5 volt DC to DC converter that I can run off of one of the cigarette lighters that's up kind of in the front console area. I'm going to keep this all hidden behind the shroud so you don't see these wires and things. I want to have this kind of a nice packaged approach that looks clean and no rattles or anything. But that is another necessary part. Otherwise, you could run it off of a USB-A to USB-C converter cable, like an adapter, but you'd be limited to a 10 watt output from your normal USB-A connectors, and that's not going to get you the fast charging that you're probably looking for. The last part of this puzzle is, I figured I'm going to have the dash kind of that center console kind of opened up where the display is. And for a long time, I've been wanting to put in one of these auto start stop disable cables. Essentially what it is it's got a little, it's a real small little memory module in it that just records, if you push the off button on your auto start stop, it'll remember that. So next time you turn the truck on, it'll automatically set that button to the same button press. So it doesn't disable it entirely. Like, you could turn it back on if you want to. It just remembers it so that every time you turn the truck on, you don't have to go and manually push the button. I know it seems like a silly thing. It's pretty easy to push a button, but it's an inconvenience. I don't want to have to push a button on the truck every time I start it just to disable something I don't want to have it do anyways. I don't think the auto start stop is really a very good thing for your engines. That's a whole separate topic. Anyways, those are the 4 devices I had picked out and we're going to install today. So stay tuned and we'll see how it goes. Let's see. So the first part, I believe, is we're just going to be removing this speaker grill, and it's got some of these pressure clips on it. So it's going to feel like you're going to break it by popping it out, but really once we find those clips, it should come out without an issue. I believe there's 4 on each corner, or 2 on each corner. And it appears to be made of like a plastic, so you're not going to dent like your speaker grill. Or at least there's a plastic frame behind it. So we'll put that aside. And then next, let's see, we've got, the little rubber tray. See, and there's no more screws up here at the moment. So I believe the next part is, I think we're going to be lifting this guy up to expose the next batch of screws. Let's see, I guess I can kind of twist it a little bit like that. Now, if you guys don't have one of these, you probably want something like this. It doesn't have to, I mean, this is just what came with the auto start stop installer, but you want some kind of like plastic body tool. If you use a screwdriver on this, you're going to end up really marring up the plastic and you'll hate yourself for it. Let's see, where are these clips? Here's one. Okay, so we have 3 clips here. Let's see what's holding this guy up. Okay, and we got the 2 7mm screws in the back. I suppose I should have done these guys first. Okay, so we've got our panel up, and then you'll want to disconnect your speaker before you take the whole thing apart, take the whole thing out. Just one of these, depress the tab and slide it out. So now we've got a couple more screws here. These are 7mm as well. So we can back these out, and once these are out, this front shroud should pull out. So now we've got these screws out of the top. Let's see, and we've got these ones off the front. We're just going to kind of work our way down, and it ought to unclip. There we go. I don't know that it's worth using the pry tool or not. I think it's just kind of around the perimeter a little bit. Just kind of go slow with it so you don't break any tabs or anything. Okay, I can kind of see that there's red clips in there. Maybe I will use this pry tool just to gently working it out. Okay, so that's that. Now it looks like there's quite a few cables on the back of this, as you'd expect. So I'm just going to disconnect these for now to get them out of the way. Okay, so that's all of them off. This is the auto start stop button. We're going to be kind of putting something in line with this that I had shown earlier, and that's what's got that memory module in it. So I need to remember to interface with that before we get everything put back together. I'll just put this aside though. And what we're looking for now will be a 12-volt power supply coming over here to the main cigarette lighter. So we're looking at the cigarette lighter now. I've got the 110-volt output as well as a 12-volt power outlet for the cigarette lighter, which I don't use. In the back of this, and I know you guys can't see it from there, but there's a small connector that's got a little bit of a tab that you need to depress to disable or to disconnect it. There we go. And what I've got, let me get a light on this real quick. We've got 2 wires coming into it. It's just a simple 12-volt DC. So we're going to tap into the ground and power. Now this is I believe it's a 20 amp capable outlet. That's what it's fused for. All I need is, just the 3 amp coming off of it. So it's not like I need a real heavy gauge wire. But we're going to take some flying leads to bring a red and a black, a power and a ground up to a location up around here where I'm going to install that 12-volt DC to DC converter. We'll find first where we're going to mount that just so that it looks clean and it isn't going to rattle around or interfere with anything. And then we'll figure out how to route those cable wires down and around back to this guy before we plug it back in. We're not going to disable this. I mean, there's no point to disable it. We're just going to tap power off of it. So let's get to that and see how this goes. So to give you guys kind of a quick teaser of what I'm thinking here, this is the base of that Magsafe charger I was talking about. So this is a milled aluminum part. It's got a real kind of nifty clip design that'll actually grab underneath the lip of your vent here, and it won't prevent you from adjusting this or impede your airflow. I suppose maybe not until you get your phone on there. But it's got a little hex nut or a little hex head driver screw in there. So what you do is you kind of get it fit in there, and you see I'm pulling on it now. It's already latched kind of into place. And we'll just use this Allen wrench to kind of cinch it down. Now, because it's a metal bracket on a plastic frame, there's no reason to go crazy on it. I just want to kind of I want to start kind of bringing things in so I can see where I need to position things. So that already, I mean, that's already pretty nice. It's got like a little rubberized pad on the inside of it so that it's not going to mar the plastic surface, and it'll kind of help keep it from slipping. Now the other part of that, this is the actual like Magsafe charging puck portion. This will just kind of clip on here and screw tight. It's got a collar on it, and then it's got a USB-C power input on there. And let's just say I position it something like that. Now this is that DC to DC converter I was talking about. It's kind of a nifty little thing. It's a potted design, so it's not going to let moisture into it. But it's already got a USB-C connector on there. And so the desire is that I can have this plugged in and kind of have it routed up and hidden like this behind there, so that you're minimizing how many wires you're going to have to see. I just want to get a sense for like what's the cleanest way to route this wire through here, so that I can see where I need to mount this little converter box, so that in the end I can see where these wires need to chase down to the cigarette lighter. So now that we've got that display out of there, I can more easily access where I'd like to mount this DC to DC converter. As a reminder, I've got my 12-volt interface that's going to go over to the cigarette lighter. I'll route that behind. And I've got my USB-C connection coming off of that. I've got a nice flat surface that is one of these molded ductings that comes out of the vent. I think I'm just going to do some self-tapping screws that'll mount this flat to that, and then I can chase my USB cable out and my 12-volt power over. I think that'll work out pretty nicely. But I just want to mount it. I'm going to just mount this guy back here. And this plastic, it's just molded plastic. I suppose, let me just get this guy started first. It's just molded plastic that is the ducting kind of behind all this vent system. So even if the screw goes all the way through, which, I mean, it will, but that's not a bad thing. It's not going to get in the way of anything. Obviously, this isn't a very heavy module or anything like that either, so it doesn't take a lot of force to get it in there. Now I did find it helpful to get one of those started first, just to place things, and I'm going to use my drill to kind of get it going into the plastic first, my impact, just because I can spin it faster. So I know it looks pretty hacky right now, but I think that's going to be all right. I'm taking this power cable. We're going to try to route it over here cleanly to where it's going to interface with this guy. I've got some of these zip ties, everybody's favorite, and I'm going to just kind of clip it or support it onto this little plastic feature here. I'm over here looking at the back of the cigarette lighter connector, along with my 12 volt leads to the DC to DC converter on that side. These are those splicing pieces that I had mentioned earlier, where basically it allows you to overlap two wires, and then there's the kind of this blade that comes down and pierces the jacket, binding them both together electrically. So what I'm going to do is just essentially clip off the excess wire that I knew I was going to have. I don't need to pull this taut. Like I said, it's probably better to have some kind of service loop. And I actually don't even need to take the sheathing off of these, because that's what will be pierced through. What I'll do is I'm going to line up my gray one first. That's got the 12 volt hot going to this pink. I can either feed it through the back or pull it through the side, but since it's easier to come from the side, I'll do it this way. I'm going to see if I can keep it a little bit further away from this connector, just so I have a little bit more room to manipulate that back into place. And then we'll just use a set of pliers to pinch that tooth into place onto the jacket. And once that's down, that's pretty tight in place, and then there's just a small like door, a lock kind of thing that'll close over top and cinch the two together. So we'll do the same thing with the ground side of this, the black wire. And I know this is kind of a tight location to do all this, but I think it's probably the most efficient way to do it. I'll push that back a little bit again to give myself some access to that connector. And we'll just crunch this spade down into the sheath. And close the door on it. Now the last step, really, now that that's all electrically bonded, I should just be able to reconnect this into the back of the cigarette lighter. Okay, we've got all the wiring done that I wanted to do. Now we're just going to start reassembling things. That first piece that I've got to put back in is this display head. So now to do this little bracket, or to do this little mouse hole, as I'm looking at the back of this control panel, I can see that I've got a little bit of a rib here on the edge, and then there's a nice flat area there. And that flat appears to correspond just above where this trough is. I think that rib fits in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my USB cable through this little area here. So what I need to do is I have a couple of these rat tail files. I'm going to use those to kind of gnaw away a little bit at this plastic rib, so that the USB cable can kind of just fit right through there and then plug up underneath of this. I need to keep it lower than this hole though, because this is where one of those clips kind of comes through. So I'm going to try to put it about here. And I know it's a little rudimentary way to do it, but I don't have a real good like small saw to cut anything like this. And I think this should do a nice job. Got a little bit larger one here once I have that set in. Actually, that looks like that'd sit pretty flush in there, so that's not bad. If I do kind of like a dry fit of things, you can see where that lines up on the control panel. Or rather, how it lines up on the control panel. So this kind of fits in there like this. I'm going to have to put a little notch in the control panel side of it. So let me see. I'm going to just make a slight mark here so I can see where I need to go. Okay, now that we've got the majority of this put back together, I suppose we ought to start finishing up and reattaching things. So I'm going to start by getting this guy kind of preloaded with these cables. And I mean that by that, I want to get that auto start stop module in line as well. But I kind of want to see that it's not going to interfere with anything when I start to assemble this. So I'll get all these connections in place aside from that one. And then that one, you know, like I said, it's just an inline male to female adapter. Should be keyed. Yep. So I've got those connectors in there. My USB's hanging out. I'll just chase back this excess. Looks kind of like that. I am going to put this on just temporarily so I can see how much slack I need, because I think once I have this all in place, it's going to be kind of tight. So we'll go like that. So now we're back with the 7mm. Let's tighten these guys down. Just a reverse process of what we had done before. And then the last connection you've got to make is just put our speaker back on. And then line it up in the back and pop it down in the front. And this again was the 7mm screw in the back. There's little counter bores for them to sit into. All right, so come into the truck. Phones, you know, not attached to anything, no lights or anything. But when I enable accessory mode, we're getting power from the cigarette lighter. Put that on there. We're starting to get charge out of that. Let me close the door. All right, and let's see if wireless CarPlay comes up right off the bat. I don't know if this is something where like you have to wait until the engine's going or what. Nice. Okay, so it seems like it'd go. Let me see a couple other things. So we'll start up the engine. Still charging, everything's still working. This is off, which is nice, so I can turn that off. We're gonna leave it, I don't know, just as a test. Right now the auto start stop is on, so I'll turn off. Normally, you know, when you start back on, it's always going to be in the on mode. So it's still on. Now I'm going to push it to off. Let's see if I turn off. Now it would typically clear and go back to the on mode. Let me let it all the way off. It seems like we still got that delay on it. Okay, so everything's turning off. Get back in the truck. Turn everything on. Okay, good. And it stays in the off mode. Everything's charging again. Seems like it's working pretty well. So there you have it. You know, we got through this project in not a whole lot of time, maybe an hour or two. I've never been a big fan of digging through the plastic work that's kind of makes up the dash and the center console and stuff, just because, you know, you're always cramped in there with the seats and everything else that's in there. the windshield and whatnot. Nevertheless, I think it was pretty straightforward. I'm hoping I explained it pretty well. The parts that I selected, I'm pretty pleased with. I really love that mount and just how rock solid it is on the dash, and also the fact that you can remove it without, leaving any big sticky stain or anything like that on there. The wiring was pretty straightforward as well. The mounting and everything, that seemed like that went pretty well, and everything went back together really nicely. The wireless CarPlay piece, that's a pretty slick feature, being able to just, pop that thing onto the Magsafe charger, let it start charging, and you've wirelessly got your CarPlay. I'll admit it's just a touch slower than I was expecting, the responsiveness, but I guess, even as I'm backing down the driveway with the OEM radio, it still takes a little while for the maps and things to load. So, maybe I'm just getting impatient. All in all, though, I like this project. I think it's a pretty clean and straightforward way of doing things without the mess of all these cables dangling around the front of your screens or around your steering wheel or shifter or anything like that. So if you like it, give it a shot. If you like this video, how things were explained, give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. And like I mentioned at the start of the video, all the products that I used in this are going to be in the description down below. So take care, guys. We'll see you on the next one.